Yep. People are going to be surprised. I find it interesting that a lot of people in Pulse Chain, I would say for the most part, they really underestimate PulseX. So, it's it's nothing special right now, but over time, I think people are going to wake up to the best core coin on Pulse Chain. But until then, can only speculate. PTGC and UFO too, whether you like it or not. Those coins are going to do really well too. Give me something to talk about. Put something in the chat. It's boring. I could talk about anything, basically. Well, if I can, I will. If I'm not too educated on it, I'm probably not going to say much on it, but fire away. Questions, comments, all that good stuff. I really haven't been on YouTube like that. 57 subscribers. Not bad. Not bad. Thoughts on tokenized real estate? 99% of the time, it's probably going to be a scam. However, things like I look at stuff like PTGC as tokenized real estate. So, I guess it just depends, like, your interpretation of it. But if you're talking like real world, like connected to like houses and stuff, I'm gonna probably safely say 90 some odd percent is scam. The other part is probably very complex and complicated, and it's going to take a while to have that adoption that you're probably most likely trying to get. That's just that's just me being honest. At least that's my interpretation. I could be wrong. I don't think so, but yeah. I think PTGC is good. That's like real estate in my opinion. So is PulseX. Like those are, to me, that's just as much real estate as like some of the things like commercial real estate, single home real estate. I happen to think crypto is better. Some people may not agree because they like the immediate gratification and they like how easy it is to hire a tax person to basically handle everything. And when you involve cryptocurrency, things get way more complex unless you have like Coinly or however you're doing things. I know some people set their wallets up in trust funds and they do all that good stuff, take profits in the stocks, take loans out on the stocks. People do a lot of stuff to get yield and to get more APR. The smartest thing to do is just to be in cryptocurrency and just long on it. And if it's a good project, that's probably the best thing you could do. Think of it like this, like So you have a plot of land, but there's nothing around it yet, and it's cheap. You're speculating that eventually there's going to be some sort of economy around that vacant area that you're investing in. So you got to look at cryptocurrency similar with better benefits, in my opinion. Like, this is sort of like back in the day, you're speculating on a plot of land, and eventually you just have to see the vision. Could you see an economy here? Could you see streets here? Could you see fast food places here? um, gas station, all that good stuff. If you can envision that, then yeah, buying that plot of land in the middle of nowhere for cheap is probably the best option, or was the best option. And in today's day and age, you have to treat cryptocurrency like that, except for you don't want to you don't want to buy land too far out there where very little people know about it and whatever. Then you're just going to be sitting on maybe a tax write-off at best, but yeah, you're going to take a huge risk with that. I'm bullish on PulseX out of everything. Well, core coins, yeah, for sure. The only negative externality is being bonded to INC to give INC its value with everyone dumps it. Okay. So you could be a glass half full, glass half empty person. So the other flip side to that is ink supply is incredibly scarce. Like, it's less than like, okay, 55 million tokens is nothing. People launch meme coins that go to couple of dollars, and they have a billion in supply, and there's no purpose or utility behind it. And there also is a conversation to be said that some utility is bearish, and I can understand to a degree, but since everything is bonded so heavily in liquidity, it only makes sense that there's the ample amount of utility to help amplify each other. So yeah, you could use the argument like, people sell ink and whatever. As soon as there's a reason to hold ink and people want to hold ink and people are fear of missed opportunity buying into ink, guarantee you your outlook could be a little bit different. Given the fact that there is room in the code, or there, it's written in the code to be, serve as like a governance token eventually. Who knows? I have a backdoor conspiracy that there's something with INC and the pump tires coins. I don't know what it is. But it's not nothing, because all of those okay, so the pump tires coins, right? The OG Genesis wallet launched the coins that it did. Well, in that process, it launched every core coin except for INC. It even listed PDI as a meme, right? But for whatever reason, they left off the INC token. And in my opinion, that's only because they don't want to mistake that token for something. And I don't know what it is. I have no idea, but it's weird that there was not an INC token created. The logo green, the fact that there's certain things in its code that's written that could be applied. There could be some scenario for the pump tires coins. Who knows? Probably not single-sided staking or anything like that. It'll probably just be like using INC to vote on which pump tires coins get on the PulseX farms, or maybe there's a whole other separate farm that's built that you might need INC, or it pays INC for you to provide liquidity. Who knows? I could be completely off, but we'll see. But I mean, if we're being real and if we're being honest, there's a case where INC is probably the second best coin that does the second best amount of X's. Like, there could be a scenario where Hex, obviously, in my opinion, I think Hex is going to do the most X's, top from bottom to top. That's what I think. and for competing for that second spot is between PulseX and Inc. in my opinion. So worst case scenario out of that situation, PulseX probably is the second performer, and then Inc. Excuse me, but there is an alternate universe where there's a lot of fear of missed opportunity with INC, and it does the second amount of best X's of the core coins. So, great point. Yeah, I mean, all you can do is recklessly speculate. That's that's literally all you can do on Pulse Chain is just play just play games with like what's happening. It's a guessing game. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I could be wrong on tons of stuff that I say, but like until it actually unfolds, we won't know. Keep it going. Put other stuff in the chat. Like, share, subscribe. Damn it. Thank you. I am, you know what, guys? I actually am impressed because I don't hop on YouTube. I don't, this is my second live stream I've done. The first live stream I did was a couple nights ago. And for whatever reason, my laptop was just wigging out. And I tried to close the stream, and I thought the stream would like automatically upload. And so when I tried to do that, it just wasn't, I couldn't even do anything. It just said that my live stream was like continuously going for like 45 minutes after the fact. And so finally I got to close everything down. I shut everything off, and it didn't post. It just deleted the whole live. So that was trash. But now I'm traveling. I'm not home right now, but thought it'd be a great idea to do a live stream from the nice old Airbnb. Pretty nice spot. It's not bad. Yeah, you gotta get this extra money, guys. At where we are in price, like it pains me that I can't buy more. It pains me. Like seeing where we're at now, if I would have just waited July all the way until like a couple of weeks ago and just like aped in, whew, I would have been killing it on my PulseX bags. And my UFO bags too. With that being said, whew, I would have killed shit coming in, but it is what it is. My thing is like I'd rather have the tokens and eat like a 20% dip for a little while than I would waiting to buy a low, and it just never happens. So that sucks. That fucking sucks. It happened with me with Solana back in the day. I was like, oh, I know Solana's going to go, it's going to have a dip. I know it. No dip happened. I still had a good amount, and I made a little decent swing off that, but yeah. So I learned my lesson with that. I'm not going to do that with Pulse Chain. So it is what it is. If I eat a little bit of a dip on my dollar cost average, it is what it is. How did I first learn about Bitcoin? Actually, the first time I ever heard of Bitcoin was my cousin. He lives in a different state than me. And I remember when he came up it was a holiday or something. He had mentioned like he wanted a gaming system to mine Bitcoin, or he heard of his friend doing it or something like that. And I didn't know what that was. But then, so that was my first initial time hearing about it. But when I learned about Bitcoin, was actually when I was in the Navy. That's when the whole, idea of blockchain. Um, that's when I first learned about it because I knew guys that instead of taking separate, so in the military, if you're hurt or if something's wrong with you or whatever the case is, where you have to medically get separated, they will go about things one of two ways. Well, three. You either retire with benefits, you either don't retire, you get out with a lump sum of money, or you get out with a lump sum of Bitcoin. Now, how these guys were getting it was from the U.S. government. So instead, and it was, I think it was some of the seized Bitcoin from Silk Road, if I'm not mistaken. Could be wrong where exactly that got, um, where they got the Bitcoin from. But anyways, they were like, hey, well, we could give you, like, for example, they asked me, they're like, would you like $20,000 in cash, or do you want, I forget at the time, I think it was like a Bitcoin and a half or something like that in 2019. And I was like, no, just give me the cash, bro. Like, I don't want the Bitcoin. What am I going to do with that? So, yeah, that happened. And then, the COVID thing happened. And then I started paying attention to stuff on Reddit, like with the whole like Robin Hood thing and the GameStop thing and all that stuff. Like, I started learning about that. Um, and then I messed around with like meme coins and stuff. So it wasn't like I was deep into cryptocurrency. I was just like messing around and putting money stuff somewhere, and then I was just getting green candles, and I was like, it was just basically luck. So yeah. So, but yeah, that's basically when I learned about Bitcoin. Do you think the sacrifice is a way to get weekends out at the bottom? It could be. I think so. I've been doing a lot of like when in doubt, zoom out, investigating stuff. And I have to say, I think that I don't have proof of this, but I do think that there is way more that we're missing that was given to us and we didn't understand it. So, for example, um, you know, I don't think Richard I think he doesn't really care about the people selling the tokens down. I think he knows that they're going to sell anyways. I think he's more or less waiting on bigger macro stuff to happen to then make us stand out even further. So if anything, the sacrifice is gearing up for better stuff for the whole ecosystem of his brand. So um, I don't think it's more or less like he's doing the sacrifice to get the weak hands out. But I'm also not saying that, probably it is strategically aligned to maybe get some of that capital over to the sacrifice now more so than, once we're at like three zeros and a one area. So it could go, like, I could be wrong, but I think in the grand scheme of things, he's just worrying about way bigger stuff. And I think he's gearing up for stuff, for something that's obviously great, but you got to understand that we are not him, right? Like, we're not multi-billionaire people. We're not in the same rooms as them. Um, this is a guy that has Elon and Trump attorney money. Like, what are we talking about? Like, how do we even have how do, I don't understand how people can say, well, if I was Richard, I would do. You have no clue what Richard would do because you're not in Richard's shoes, man. Like, you're not of that status. Like, when Richard does stuff on chain, people pay attention. When you do stuff on chain, nobody cares, right? So he's gearing up for good. He's gearing up for glory, though, for sure. I don't think I don't think there's a world where Pulse Chain is a failure. However, I do think there's room for explaining why things didn't happen the way that people wanted it to. And unfortunately, that is part of the game. It's like you got to wait it out. You know, it, you know that that is the thing with the most volatile asset. If it's going to price perform at 10,000x, or we're all under the assumption that it can do somewhere within those parameters, yeah, it's going to be a fucking shitty ass bear market. Like I don't know what else to say to that. Like I was well aware coming on to this chain, knowing that this was not going to be an easy ride. So maybe other people thought maybe they thought they did, and they really didn't understand to the degree of how much they would be challenged and pushed. And I think that's where I come in. I benefit because I've been in times where it was, hurry up and wait. That's the military in a nutshell. And I was in the military for 4 years. I'm used to it. I'm used to being told, yeah, we're not, we'll be home next month. And really it was like, 4 months it took. I'm totally used to those extreme measures. And I think it's actually telling that, a lot of people are not. A lot of people are not for these measures. So it sucks that they got to get weeded out. It sucks that not everyone can be as convicted, and they know exactly what they hold and stuff. But yeah, I do think though, what we are, if everyone is still on board and you still hold your tokens, I think you're in for a good bull run. We're in for a good bull run, but it just takes time. It is what it is. You hate hearing that because everyone tells you that. I hate hearing that, but that's just the truth. I would be worried if Cardano was like $10 and we're still sitting like 4 zeros and a 3. I'd be very concerned. I'm not even gonna lie. I'd be very concerned. But until then, yeah. 18 years in the military. Oh, nice. That's what's up. Yeah, I was on an aircraft carrier. I was stationed on the East Coast. That sucked. Nothing to do. Shitty weather. It was a college town too. On top of that, so yeah, that I don't know where you're stationed at, or where you were stationed at, but yeah. Okay. Oh, okay. So you were probably Lejeune or Paris Island, I'm guessing, or Fort Bragg or somewhere, probably somewhere in Georgia or whatever. But yeah, I had a buddy in the Marine Corps. I used to, whenever I had weekends where I didn't have to like report for duty and stuff, I used to go down to Lejeune and say what's up to him. You know what I realized being in the military? You lose a lot of friends out of nowhere. I think it's just because you're gone and you're not getting like screwed up in a garage where you're playing like Edward 40 hands, where you got 240s like tied to your hands, you're just drinking your life away. But Anything interesting happening on X? I'm so mad that they suspended my X account, but and I know I got to make another one just because I'm trying to do the whole YouTube thing, but it really makes me mad because I feel like I built that account up so well, and they just took me out for my kneecaps all because I was promoting Paul Sex Link. That's all I was doing. They're like, "Oh, you're spamming." I'm like, "I'm posting a link, bro." And I'm putting like words and stuff. Like I'm obviously not a robot. So Bob Lucas. But respect to Bob Lucas, but it so my thing is if the top is in for Bitcoin, which I don't think it is, but let's assume that it is that just it? Is there like is there no altcoin season? Is there no, because I don't seem to believe that. Um, I think I think that there's going to be a lot of FOMO coming in towards Christmas, and I think there definitely will be some like tariff dividends checks probably handed out Q1 or Q2 of next year. So that could be something too. But respect to Bob Lucas though, he is pretty decent at TA. But yeah, no, I don't think the top's in. If the top is in for Bitcoin, it certainly is not for Ethereum. But again, I don't think the top is in for Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin can still probably chug up to about 180,000. I'd say. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, I think Richard said 244,000 was his Bitcoin prediction this cycle. Tops. That would be cool. I personally think that would be really top heavy for Bitcoin. If it wicks that high, I'd be shocked. Nevertheless, if it had some major support levels above 220,000 that was sustainable, that would be, man, all that would be top signals in my opinion. But yeah, so we'll see. Like I said, I mean, $180,000 Bitcoin, that's still that Bitcoin did really well this cycle if that's the case. You can't lie. We in the Pulse Chain community, we shit on Bitcoin because that is our marketing because we do have better tech. But if we're talking about something as top heavy as Bitcoin doing like a 3x from its previous all-time high, and that's good. So, I mean, it is. Let's see if I could share this link.
here for your whole body every day.
When you grow up out here, you learn to tell facts from fertilizer. I keep my boots clean by rolling with AT&T, the company that invented the telephone. AT&T is America's first network, and it's still the best. That's not me talking. That's the scoreboard. Just the fastest, most reliable network. Get that right, Graham. When you compare, there's no comparison. Plain talk, strong signal, nothing better. Style and substance.
What else is good, man? What else?
Or get this low mileage lease on the Sierra Elevation for about $1 per month.
Man, Ethereum needs to do something though. It's doing pretty good. I mean, just on the 24-hour, it's almost up 2%. That's cool. I wonder if the ratio between Bitcoin and Ethereum, the top was in. Now it's cooked. Like, now Ethereum is going to ratio, like, probably. I'd be interested to see what it could end up, but it would be interesting if Bitcoin went to 150,000, like really fast, like, into the new year, right? And then Ethereum goes to, $8,000, right? Could there be a case scenario where maybe there's one last little hype? Like, could there be like a Judas candle with Bitcoin again? Like that double top scenario that happened? Maybe Ethereum is a really, really heavy performer for the next couple of years. What if the Ethereum doesn't bottom as hard as Bitcoin does this cycle? That would be interesting. Like if Bitcoin ended up so if Bitcoin's bottom in this next bear cycle ends up being like, let's say $69,000 or whatever, $74,000, could you see maybe Ethereum's only draw back from, let's say it does go to like that $8,000 to $10,000 range and it has its pullback, but it only goes to like, what if it only goes to like 4,700 or like 5 bands? And then from there, it's the heavier performer because now that there's legal clarity, regulations are out of the way, more rate cuts happen, more liquidity being injected through the economy via more inflation, money printer go burr. Could that make things like Pulse Chain going up? Like what we've experienced the last couple of years, maybe we go into a scenario where we're up only and our drawbacks are not as heavy. And the next cycle pops off, and then that's when you're going to see like who graduates into the blue chip conversation. So I don't think at first Binance was really accepted into that blue chip Illuminati clan, but I do think at some degree there's going to be ball being played, and I wonder how that's going to affect Pulse Chain later on down the road. Whether or not there's going to be key institutions that look at it, whether or not it's going to remain heavily as like a cypherpunk chain or stuff like that. We'll see. I mean, the great thing though that Pulse Chain has is clarity. Like I remember last year that was like Pulse Chain community's number one main concern was clarity. It wasn't anything. Literally, it wasn't anything else. I just remember, but the SEC case. We don't know. What if Richard settles? That's bearish. What if Pulse Chain doesn't win? That's a huge L. Da, da, da. None of that happened. Pulse chain won with legal clarity, actually, with the judge ruling in the favor of the defendants, plural, Richard Hart, Hex, Pulse X, Pulse Chain. So I think the future looks bright, guys. Not to steal Patrick Bet David's slogan or whatever, but I don't see why Pulse Chain is a bad place to be. I don't see that argument. What's the argument? The price performance? Okay. So what happens when that changes though? Will your opinion change or are you still going to ride on what you were saying? Oh no, it has everything to do with price. So once price performance happens, you have your proof, you have your evidence of why you should stick around. So why not save yourself the anxiety of all of this and just think about this now and then, not let your emotions kill you. Like there's grown men. Like I'm grown, but I'm 20 being 28, I still have a lot to learn in this world. I still have a lot to experience, even though I feel like I've experienced a lot. I've been to 8 different countries, been in the military, started my business, um, went back to college because I just basically wanted to do it. It's not that like I think you need college. I just think that for me, it was one of those things that I just wanted to personally have to say that, yeah, I was a military veteran. Yes, I have college experience. Just because I know in the real world, stuff like that kind of matters to a degree. So I'm just playing the system where, I'm getting my little certificate so I can get in a room and have serious conversations about tech. That's it. Like I'm here to stay in Pulse Chain. Like there's going to be profit taking from me for sure. And I would be a liar if I said I wasn't, but um there's way too much potential here for me to just look at it, very, small and say like this is just I'm in it for one cycle and then that's it. It's like, what? I'm getting all the supply now, so I'm good. I don't want to have to pay. Could you imagine? You're like, oh, I'm dollar cost averaging. It's a penny per pulsex. It's a good deal. It's like cooked. I do not want to buy a penny pulsex ever. I would love to sell pulsex at maybe a penny, but I would never buy pulsex at a penny. Like that's my mindset. Like I don't want to buy any more crypto after. Like I just want to sit on what I have. I'll take profits when I deem necessary, and that's it. That's all you can do. You can act all holy, and I could pretend to LARP like I'm Richard, where it's like, oh, I'll be on Pulse Chain and I won't sell a single coin. That's just dumb, and you shouldn't believe that because I definitely am. Like I look at cryptocurrency as opportunity advancement in the 3D world as well. And in order to do that, you're gonna have to liquidate some of that profits that you've captured, how many X's you've done, how much supply you have. It is what it is. Markets are going to market. I will say this though. I am set up where it really doesn't matter. Like really what I do, like guaranteed 15 years. 15 years you got me around. 15 years you got me talking positively. So I'd say that's a pretty good time frame to have someone speak positively about your bags. That's guaranteed. What else is going on, man? Is there anything on X? I've been trying to surf through it. It's just nothing but the same old circulated bullshit. Tom Lee says Ethereum's going too. It's like, what did Tom Lee say today about Ethereum's price? What is it going to today? Is it going to $7,000 or is it going to $20,000? Who knows? Let's see how Tom's feeling today. Tom, what's the price? You know, if we're in a hype cycle, you better believe Tom Lee's saying some outlandish stuff like Ethereum's going to like, you know, $28,000, $30,000 a cycle. You're gonna hear that eventually. Just watch out, man, because as soon as Ethereum gets to that double digits, could have a major pullback after that. You could even say $8,000 Ethereum. You're going to have some decent profit taking. Now, if we have a short period of time where we suffer like a 50% dip, something to really like scare people, and then, you know, after that it just goes straight to like 12 to $15,000 Ethereum, that would probably be the most likely outcome. And then, you know, like I said, the drop off might not be as tough. Maybe it only climbs back to like $5,000 or $5,500 or you know, $4,800 Ethereum. And then you have Lido stakes like 29% of the Ethereum supply, if not more or less, give or take. And then there's other entities that have their little staking features and all that good stuff. So there could be a decent amount of Ethereum at the end of the day that is just not touched. So if you're looking at Ethereum as like, you know, could it perform alongside Bitcoin or do similar runs, I would say it looks like it could be in lockstep, if not perform a little bit better, given that the lifespan of how long Bitcoin was around before it got regulation and the legal clarity that TradFi is looking for to get comfortable to invest in. Ethereum's going to have a lot more runway with that because there's just positive regulation. Like there is no uncertainty. There is no, the government is seizing Ethereum payments from Silk Road, and you know, Bitcoin took the bullets. You know, it took the beating for Ethereum, you could say. So and man, could you imagine? Oh my God. If Ethereum goes to like $12,000, guys, Pulse Chain is, man, oh man. Now, you could be, I think the most reasonably conservative you could possibly be when you're looking at PulseX. In my opinion, PulseX could probably get to like 40% of a penny. You know, some people would say 1, 2, 3 cents. Other people would say PulseX to $1 and whatever. But I think the most reasonable outcome for PulseX is definitely 2 zeros and a 4 range, 3 or 4. So, and maybe it goes 2 zeros and a 1, but it's definitely going within. It's going to do a 10x from most people's sacrifice price, which is 3 zeros, 1, 2 to 3 zeros and a 2. So you can take that to the bank. Those buy and burns are really going to ramp up, especially in times where there's a lot of volume, in times where there's, you know, a lot of different sort of fear of missed opportunity. So it's not like all the core coins are going to move up in unison. It might happen like that to some degree, but I think there's going to be mini hype seasons for each core coin, and those could last like a couple of weeks, maybe. So like there could be 1 week there's a hype in Hex, next week there's a hype in PulseX, next hype is in Pulse, next hype is in INC, next hype is in maybe eHex. It just could go in a pattern similar to that, probably, just because they're getting the gains from the the coins are being, they're able to be so volatile and they have a lot of supply, so they're going to look for better deals and ratios. They're going to ratio trade. That is a lot of Pulse Chain community, like they ratio trade between like how much more capital can you get off of this trade between these two assets. It's not really about it's not the same type of like fear of missed opportunity you see in like Solana and stuff like that. Like they're more strategic than that. They're not just going to go straight to the stable. They're going to go into an asset that is severely undervalued, and then they're going to create, fear of missed opportunity. You could see that even, flood into the pump tires coins too, probably, because they all have, they all have limited supply. So when other people look at tokens, they're like 1 billion tokens. That's a lot. Pulsicans look at 1 billion tokens. They're like, oh, that's not even a lot, bro. That's funny. I like that Pulse chain is a very unit biased chain too. And I like that Richard designed it that way. The game theory, it is better, in my opinion. It is way better. Because even like someone like myself, I like the fact that what the units look like. Like, I don't really care about what the dollar amount says right there. I really like how the units read off. And I treat my investment strategy, and I cater to it more so than I would something like Bitcoin or Ethereum when I'm dollar cost averaging. It actually makes you want to get more so than like, so if you're okay with steadily dollar cost averaging like $5 into Bitcoin, you're like, oh, $5, it'll add up to something eventually. But the reason why you're more ample to throw more money at PulseX and stuff like that, you're going to see that accumulation of units, and then you have so much supply that all something needs to do is just a little bit. So like eventually, if you have enough supply, you're looking at a 50% increase. Like, whoa, like that's substantial. That's, it gets addicting too. So you're chasing more units. That way you don't have to sit here with everyone else for the amount of X's. You want to get more of the supply when it's cheaper, and then you can scale out at a more appropriate measure, and it's less risk. That's why I'm a big advocate for, you got to treat Pulse Chain almost like a game. And on the leaderboard is basically like who you are and how much you hold of supply of each coin that you're in. You should look at it as personal competition, because at the end of the day, if you control more of the supply and you're able to, like PTGC and UFO, for example, you're accumulating those. At the same time, you're getting reflections. And if you're doing the whole staking and locking thing with PTGC, you're just compounding. So, and on top of it, it's hyper deflationary assets. Like PulseX is hyper deflationary. 8% of the supply is already burned to PulseX. That's a lot. That's a lot of supply for such low volume layer one that no one is really speculating on yet. Those are going to add up. How much supply do you want to be when people care about it? Because that's what I care about. Like when the normal person, well, not the normal, but you know what I mean? When people who start to explore out and they're like, oh, but I remember you talking about PulseX. It's a penny now. It's a good deal. $100 gets me a lot of coins. You're like, you have no idea, buddy. You have no idea. I like Hex too. Like I just I like PTGC a little bit better than Hex. If I'm just being very transparent with you guys, I just I like the tokenomics and I like the game theory better. But I again, I have a good amount of Hex. I'm locked up 15 years. I believe in the concept. I believe Hex will do really, really well. Um, but if I'm just being honest with you guys, I'm looking at what about this can I invest in that doesn't really center around Richard or any other centralized entity to have benevolence. Like I don't need to rely on any benevolence for this coin to perform well. And I had to ask myself that met all the criteria that I liked. It was PulseX. I understand if you're a Richard Maxey. I'm a Richard Maxey to an extent. Like I'm going to say it right now. He single-handedly changed my outlook on cryptocurrency. Um, I sat there, probably like most of you that are out there. Well, the one person that's here, but other people that see this, you were probably sitting there at some point for hours watching Richard Hart interviews, learning stuff. Just really like it's basically just like absorbing all this information, right? And that I really respect him for that. I'm really grateful that there's someone like him that was willing to share a lot of knowledge for free, and it was just it really did change my life. However, I am honest about what I think about the tech, and if he was honest, he would even admit PTGC is it's good tech. So he's never going to advocate for PTGC. He's never going to shout it out. I don't think that's not any. He's not going to promote anything that's not his. But what I will say, me as a non-biased person that looks at stuff for what they are, I looked at what are the coins that meet my investment criteria, and a lot of it was like it's great that Richard's here, and we believe that he is doing the benevolent things that he does. And that's a great thing to speculate on, in my opinion, especially if you have a large amount of cult following community members that believe that same message, right? So you're guaranteed X's from this chain just looking at the community. But what I find fascinating is it's more or less that, for me anyways, like they would follow Richard off of a cliff. I don't think I would follow Richard off of a cliff. I respect him, I admire him, but then there's other things that we may not agree with and stuff. And then I look at what are other people doing in Pulse Chain that is revolutionary and deserves the respect that it does. There really isn't a whole lot out there. I'm gonna let you know right now. So Richard is mostly right when he says there's probably a lot of garbage that's on Pulse Chain, and that is true. I just think that PTGC and UFO are not that. I think that is the very minority of the rule. And so, with that being said, I look at my Hex and I'm like, man, like, kind of wish I would have just had more PTGC if I'm just looking at it from a yield compounding perspective and price appreciation. So, I mean, I really like PulseX. PulseX is my favorite core token for sure. I'm a very, I would say that for PulseX is one of my main tickets for sure. But PTGC UFO not to be slept on for sure. If you want evidence, you can look at what it's done compared to other coins on Pulse Chain. It's outperformed Wrapped Pulse. I think I looked at the Wrapped Pulse chart. The ratio was It's like you need 6 pulse to get to 1 PTGC, and at one point it was as high as 21 or 22 PTGC or wrapped pulse per 1 PTGC. Ratios ain't lying. Men lie, women lie, devs lie, numbers don't. I like those odds. I do like some of the pump tires coins too. I do. There's some that I'm like, yeah, I'll take that. I'll take that coin, whatever. But I would not. I would not over allocate into pump tires coins though. Definitely wouldn't do that. Now, if you're just trying to be like a whale inside of like most and whatever, I could see it. I mean, I don't agree with it. I think it's funny, and I think I'm saying good luck, and you probably will outperform Pulse. But yeah, that's not for me. I'm a little bit more spread out throughout the ecosystem, but not to the point where I'm just in meme coins. I think each core token has a great investment thesis attached to it. I just think there's other coins that you can look at and probably get more bang for your buck at certain price levels. That's it. But I mean, what are the prices looking like? Man, INC was at one point I saw INC today at like 69 cents. Whew. Imagine this token goes back to $80 plus. You could have scooped it for 69 cents. Think about that. It's like if the bull market happens in 3 months, let's say, and it happens, and then you look back, you're like, 3 months ago, I could have bought INC for 71 cents, and today it's $71. Like, oof, ate it. Hex too. I mean, look at Hex. Hex is 2 zeros and a 382. You could be like, Hex was less than a penny 3 months ago, and now it's 30 cents, $3. Like, crazy work. Look at that Pulse X, like 4 zeros, 126 per Pulse X token. That's crazy. You guys would laugh if you saw like when I first came into Pulse Chain, it was like in smaller increments. I was in wrapped Pulse on Ethereum's network, believe it or not. I was a noob, right? I didn't know I didn't know shit from shit. I'm going to be honest with you. When I started like playing around in like Solana, and then I came over to Pulse Chain, I got lucky in Solana. I should have got wrecked. I got lucky in Solana. Took some gains that I got from Solana over into Pulse Chain. And you know what? That candle wick that brought us all the way up to that 3 zeros, 1 5 range, 1 6 range. I FOMO'd in right there. I'll tell you that. Oh yeah. I FOMO'd in right there. And then I FOMO'd in again more towards, it was right before PDI had that little run where it went to a couple cents. Because I remember, admittingly, I did buy into the narrative at the time of PDI. And, at the price point that I got, I was very happy with it. I rotated some P-wrapped Bitcoin gains that I had into PDI at that time. Did pretty good on a ratio trade. and I did sell that 2 cent top. Like that was the right call, but in my opinion, and it still is to this day. When I did sell, but like it was, and then like so the main what I was getting into is like that really enhanced my core coin supply from that ratio trade at that time. And that was at way higher price points. That was when Pulse was 4 zeros and a 7. Yeah. Yeah. So, and then ever since I've just been dollar cost averaging. So, you know, yeah. So even though like people are like, well, you didn't sacrifice, it's like, dude, I basically bought the sack rate. Like, I'm just as down as you guys are, kind of, ish. I did I did scoop up a lot at the lows, like 4 or 5 months back during the whole like PDI thing where charts were just tanking and plummeting, and then I made a good little ratio swing trade on INC that worked out well for me. Um, got more pulse X from that. Yeah, I mean this year was pretty good. I mean my even though like overall I'm a little down ish from my DCA, not really. Like all we need to do is like a 3x and I'm like well in profits at that point. So just because like I've been at these levels like a madman like a couple months ago, and then recently within the last couple of months I've been uh, not really DCAing but aping a little harder into the chain. Shout out to Liberty Swap too. I mean, as far as I know, using their cross chain swap, I mess with it. I mess with it a lot. I wish that the only thing that I wish they had was the ability to buy PTGC and UFO tokens. But outside of that, like really solid, really solid. Because I was really against Liberty Swap at first, and I was like, I was still holding true to the Dead Sea Scrolls of using the OG bridge, and then I was like, yeah, no, I gotta check Liberty Swap out because everyone around me was just very like hyping it up and saying positive stuff, and I was like, okay, let me use a dummy wallet, let me check it out. I was like, I mess with it, so. But this was like well before people um, like I was very skeptical at first, and then like once there was word coming around, like then I was at that time I was like, oh okay, like April May. I was April May June. It was like around that time, like maybe May or June, where I was pretty like, okay, Liberty Swap ain't bad. But before that, like I know Richard had shilled it. Richard just shilled it like a couple of times, but I was like low key. I was just low key fading it because I'm like, no, I'm using the bridge because that's what you told me to do, bro. So I'm using the OG bridge. And then he kept mentioning it, and I'm like, okay, obviously there's something here where he's like, no, I like this product, and so okay, you probably have something to do with it. So yep, make sure you like, share, subscribe, comment. I've been on here for a little over an hour. So I can't imagine I'd be on here too much longer, but If the conversation is good and cool, then yeah, I will. I do think that there is some sort of like Donald Trump lore with Richard Hart. Like, there's no doubt that Donald Trump is probably aware of Richard Hart. I mean, his son went to Bitcoin conferences with him, for Christ's sakes. It's like his name definitely came up in passing for sure. Like, not without a doubt. Now, do I think he gives him public acknowledgement? No, I don't. I don't think that there is going to be anything that suggests that there's a relationship there. However, there could be some there could be like some World Liberty Financial Group ETF or Pulse Chain, maybe. That would be bullish. Or Hex. That would be even more bullish. Imagine that. An ETF or Hex. This chain would just absolutely go bananas if that happened. Could you imagine that? Like, World Liberty Financial Group has an ETF for Pulse Chain and Hex. Like, crazy. When does Richard do a live stream? If we're lucky, we might get one on Christmas. That's all I could really guess. I think Christmas, maybe. How many views do I think he will get? A lot. The fuck ton, probably. Like, right off the rip. Oof. He could have on that live stream. There could be thousands of people on that live stream. Man, price would go big. Whew. If Richard tweets out live and they're going live in 30 minutes. Oh yeah. 10,000 live viewers, yeah. I'd say I would probably even say maybe even closer to 30 if I'm being honest with you. Maybe 30 to 50. It would be a lot. For sure it would be a lot. Cuz you got to think, like, he has a lot of haters too. Haters would love to fucking go in that chat and shit on him if they could. If he's allowing there to be a chat and stuff, but oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, it would be. I think people would be shocked how much it would be. I think it would be a substantial amount on that live stream, especially for how long he's been gone and just the overall. Like, when Richard, I said this before. When Richard moves cross chain, people pay attention. Like, they act like they don't know what pulse chain is or anything like that, right? But as soon as Richard does something on chain, you got accounts that have 500,000 plus followers, oh, Richard Hart on chain doing this. So I'm sure they would do the same, like, oh, Hex founder, Pulse Chain founder Richard Hart live streams for the first time after victory of SEC, but there's still Interpol or whatever. There could be something like that, like. It would be substantial, though. He would draw a lot of attention just because he is who he is. But what else? There's 4 of you in the chat now, or 4 people live streaming or on this live stream with me. Put something in the chat. What's up? I'll stay on here for a little bit longer if there's good conversation, there's good topics. It could be crypto stuff. It could be some outside of crypto stuff, depending. But I'm here for it. I don't know if you guys remember, I used to host like spaces on X and stuff, and they did pretty well. People liked them for the most part. At least I thought they did. But yeah, I decided to take the YouTube route. Let's see, is there anything on X? I don't know about you guys, but there's definitely going to be something that like shocks. There's always something. Like what is the catalyst to make their altcoin season? Cuz typically it's something where it's usually a big deal and it's like mass panicking. So like what is the event that turns the markets like all the way green because the entire country's or the whole entire world is like under fear or like they're in fear of something happening? Is it aliens? Because if that's the case, whoo, PTGC UFO, you better get in. No, but for real though, like I mean, I definitely could see a world where there is like a so-called like UFO or spaceship heading towards Earth, and that's why everyone needs what's it called, a chip in your body to like track you and stuff. Clarity Act should pass the Senate in the next 2 months. It's estimated to increase the stablecoin supply by 10x. Yep, there's going to be a lot of acts that are going to be, yeah, but that act in particular, next 2 months, yeah. I would be really surprised if it passed before Christmas, but then again, timing wise, who knows, right? Like it'd be interesting because the only thing that I get concerned about when people are like bullish about like when they're like, oh, but Q1, a lot of profits like to be taken before tax season is over. So that's why it's very confusing to me, kind of, that we're hoping for a better Q1. It looks like that is like the sentiment that I'm getting, especially in Pulse Chain. And I'm just wondering, like is it like more of a late Q1 run? Is that what you're suggesting? Because I happen to think that, at the start of Q1, that would most likely be where we experience a little bit of a calm down. Like if we end up turning bullish after this week, and we do have like a good 3 or 4 week run where Bitcoin goes and makes new all-time highs, Ethereum makes new all-time highs, like I don't see how that's really bullish going into Q1, but I'm here for it. I mean, it's just it doesn't make sense to me. But I mean, like, there could be like some tax rules where certain assets are taxed as such, and there is no time limit on stuff like that. That could be bullish too. That could definitely help markets push over into later Q1, early Q2 of 26. But I have a hard time believing most of 26 is going to be bullish. Like, I'm not one of those people that says like, oh, well, because we're bearish now, that means that, for 12 months straight in 2026, it's just going to be green candles. I don't buy into that personally. I think that if we do have a more bearish Q4, which I don't think we will, but let's say we did, it wouldn't really entice me to then think that we have all this time in 26 to capture mad gains. in my opinion, it would very much so concern me because of other data, because of other economic factors than just the crypto markets do take they do take place. And yeah, so I think we really do need to get cooking though soon, sooner than later. I'm not bearish, but it is kind of like, all right now, let's let's not make new floors. All right, let's go, let's track upward, not down, please, not down. Yeah, I'm saying it now. Like, I hate when prices go down like this, but then it's like things could happen miraculously where it's like you'll never see that price point ever again. You'll never have that DCA ever again. Yeah. Oh yeah. The MetaMask token airdrop. Yep. Yeah. Also, too, I don't know how much stock people want to buy into this, but Richard commenting on that game for I think it was the main account that owns Grand Theft Auto. When he said put me in the game, coach, I'm just like, why did you say that? You know, like, and then the logo too. It was pretty. I don't know if you've seen the recent logo, but the logo to me looked like it had like the same color scheme as Hex and Pulse. In my opinion, that could be a reach, but I don't know. You never know. That would make complete sense to me. Why price looked like shit all this time, and then it's like, well, yeah, if you're getting marketing inside one of the biggest games to launch in history, it's like, yeah, okay, that's pretty good marketing too. No, I have no proof of this, but it is kind of like I wonder why Richard does certain things, and when he says stuff, it's usually very calculated. So I'm just wondering why he commented under their page like that, and the coincidence of the color scheme being very identical to Hex and Pulse Chain's color schemes. I don't know. I don't know. Could be something, could be nothing, but I'm leaning towards I don't know why he would do that, because he's a very calculated person on Twitter or X. Could it just be like Fugazi to make us hype and whatever? Maybe, but I mean, I don't see Richard as this like. Some of the people in the community will literally look at Richard like he's some buffoon running around with like tons of money out of nowhere. And then there's some that revere him as a god, which I think is a little extreme, but you know, I'm not really like fighting against him not being the most superior person in the ecosystem or even in cryptocurrency. It's just I try to like not have like bias. Like I just try to look at things for what they are. And Richard's proven that he can get things done, and he when he says stuff, it's very multi-dimensional. And so when he put out that the ape picture, right? Um, the monkey picture where it looks like a ginger ape is hopping on uh, one of those pale silver apes or whatever. It's funny. It's kind of like it looked like Vitalik a little bit in the face. It was like basically symbolizing Pulse Chain just like tearing Ethereum apart, basically. But the interesting messaging behind that is "'tis the season." tis the season, its official like meaning that it has, what it's supposed, the time frame it represents is late November all the way until right after New Year's. So that's interesting. Again, I don't. At the time, I didn't read. I didn't read too much into it, except for I kind of knew like it was symbolizing like he was the ginger ape and Vitalik was the silver ape or whatever. Um, but then like the more that time passed and the more you kind of look into like the stuff that he was saying, like he was saying like the marketing is happening from September, late September, all the way until mid-November with the tablets, right? And I believe there's still tablets being moved out, if I'm not mistaken. So they're still doing that. And then throughout this whole time, prices went down, but there's been a lot of productivity in the background. So, in my opinion, you had to read that as like, okay, price is going to look like shit because the people who are already here, who stuck around, you get the best deal. That is what this is at the end of the day. It's just you get the best deal, right? Um, so you're getting the best deal because you might get an opportunity to sell some of that fat stack of tokens you got because you like the immediate gratification of taking profits and whatever. You might want to do it when accumulate the supply while price is cheap, and then once we take off for liftoff, your whole scenario is different. Your whole outlook is different too. Because let's say you're a person that you came on chain right now with like $10,000. You could possibly leave this chain with $100,000 to $500,000, and you really wouldn't even make a dent in the price as price went up. You would feel very happy about that. You'd feel the need to make videos about it and whatever. Maybe you kept a little leftover supply. That whole cycle still needs to happen too. So the people who won are going to be very convincing to the people that need to then be convinced that they could win too off of this magic carpet ride. And eventually, you're going to get to a point where, wow, we did 10,000x from very bottom to the top. If that's ever if you still have your coins and that's the narrative, and you see that price point of what it is, and that's not financial advice, but yeah, that's probably a great time to clip some profits. When you want to screenshot your portfolio, that's usually a great time to take profits. Great time. There's indicators that you got to go, like you have to follow, that aren't necessarily with the actual price charts. Like price charts for us right now, they've been going down, but community sentiment has been going up, in my opinion, since April or May. So was it a very uncomfortable spot to sit in a year ago? Kind of. Only because I wasn't here for the original Hex days, so it took me time to get into the lore and stuff. Like I wasn't, I was kind of like, yeah, I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I was just trading. I even swung. I was swing trading things like wrapped BTC and PDI. I didn't know. I was just all over the place. I was just trying to make wins. And then, this year it slowed me down in being more concise into what is actually going to benefit me in the long term too, not just the immediate, but the long term vision of being in cryptocurrency. So I'm very appreciative of the last year or so, kind of calming down, really looking into stuff. Excuse me. And just just slowing down. That's really it. Just slowing down and looking what fits your investment thesis of like what keeps you in this coin, and to see through gains. And that's what I've done. I measured it. For each core token, I wanted this amount of capital allocated towards this because of this reason or that reason. You just, you find whatever it is that you're comfortable with. If you're not so sure about holding a certain token for a long time, you probably shouldn't hold it at all. But what do I know? But there is going to be like other stuff out there that it's going to be like very, like the MetaMask airdrop. Also, too, Coinbase, like, Coinbase is going to ramp up and they're going to do some shit too. Probably drop a coin. Probably dropping a coin or listing things like from their layer 2 on the actual centralized exchange. I wouldn't be surprised. Dude, there's this guy that so I hopped on right before I did this live. I was like on YouTube already, and what I like to do is I like to go inside of these like echo chambers of people that are just like XRP maxis and stuff, and I just love stirring the pot in there. I just love screwing. I love screwing with them every second I can. They don't know anything about cryptocurrency. They're like I said, you're late if you're buying XRP right now. Like that's the truth. I said the most X's you could have possibly seen or got the most out of already happened. That's the truth. They didn't like hearing it. So there was this one guy in the chat. He was like, "LOL, this guy says you're late. XRP to 500 and whatever they say. It's some ridiculous number that 3-figure number." It's just funny. Like it makes me grateful. Like I'm like, thank you, Pulse Chain saved me. Thank you, Richard, for debunking some of the fuckery that I was falling into that lore. Like earlier on, if you're invested in cryptocurrency, you go through these like it's like phases of stupidity that you fall under. So first step is Bitcoin. Next step is Ethereum. So you kind of get smarter, but you get dumber at the same time. So you're like, naturally you're like, okay, I just want to look for the cheaper stuff so I can get more X's. But you also like not less volatility. You're trying to think like a stock person, but you're in cryptocurrency, right? So these people that are in XRP, since XRP has been at it's basically been hovering around $2 and some change for, ever since the lawsuit was, basically wrapped up and they settled and stuff like that. They've been on this high of like, oh, we're going to do so many X's. And it's like, bros, I held XRP too, right? I was buying that thinking 35 cents. I was kind of thinking I was late at that time because I had saw what it was in the past. And then it went to 50 cents, hip, hip, hooray. And then it made its little run. I sold on the way up, whatever. But these guys that are buying this token at $2.50 or whatever it's at, they're screwed if you think you're going to get more than a 5x off of this bull market. From where they're at now to where they expect to be, no. If you get more than a 5x, then I'll gladly be wrong. But for them to go over $10, like, they better watch the fuck out. Brad Garlic Breath and Chris Larpson, they're going to take some profits. They're going to sell the shit out of that token, right? So, and then of course the guy running the channel, he was like, "Oh, look at this guy. he's shilling his token. Everyone shills, but just make sure you keep it. It's like, dude, shut the fuck up. You don't know shit from shit. You're sitting on here shilling XRP like it's some fucking GME stock. You're a pleb. You're stupid. You're selling these people a false dream. This poor guy who's going to buy an XRP token for $2.50, and then he's going to see it go to $10, and then believe what these people were selling him, that it's going to go to 500 and some whatever dollars, and then let's say it goes to 12. Good luck, because that thing is going to retrace probably at the below the price point you bought it at, if I'm just being honest. And then what? You're going to sit there and be wrecked, and you're going to hate it. You're never going to look at cryptocurrency ever again because you think people like that don't deserve time because they scammed you, and rightfully so. But it's just because you didn't know what to look for. And when I go in those chats, I troll, but I don't troll like where I'm obnoxious. I do it to a point where you're not going to sit here and teach me about a stinky little ledger that has a meme coin attached to it that Ripple Labs made. You're not going to do that. We're not going to do that today. You're not going to sit here and tell me that a mediocre ledger is going to be used, so another middleman is going to be brought into the centralized table as is. By the way, let's not forget, your whole investment thesis as an XRP token holder is the selling point is BlackRock's going to buy our bags. We're getting an ETF. Banks are going to use us. How cypherpunk are you, bro? Oh, how great of you to serve the better purpose of helping the enemy, you stupid fuck. Oh, you're big bad crypto guy. Yeah, you're begging. You're literally begging hedge funds. You're pulling down your pants, begging them, please violate me. Let me further invest in getting this product out to do bad stuff with, just to make me wealthy. Please. I'm stupid. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. It's ridiculous. It really is. It's madness. But all you can do is just try. You can go in these chats and you can just try to have a conversation with people. They're so biased and they're so blind that they almost have to get fucked over and wrecked in order to come back and realize you're one of the people that tried to save them from scams, like real life scams. Yeah, it's crazy. And then people are talking about Cardano. Like, what has Cardano done? First of all, do you even know like what code Cardano even uses? You know, it's not even an EVM chain. Oh, you didn't know that, huh? You didn't know that they used Plutus or something. I think it's called Plutus, that runs off of Haskell. So it's this whole different like. So you can get devs that are EVM compatible, like they know enough to work on it. With Cardano, you got to not only try to find a dev, but then you have to then put this dev through different teachings of your own your code language that you think is so cool because you're just trying to be different. Being different sucks, you stupid ass. You're eliminating the amount of people that could help you. And there's nothing even interesting happening with these layer ones. What's the narrative on Cardano other than the fact Charles, however the fuck you say his last name? Oh, he's a rhino Republican. He LARPs off of Richard Hart and takes stuff out of his playbook to then try to do better marketing towards his community. I'm not buying it. It's stupid. There's nothing happening. People think there's nothing happening on Pulse Chain. There ain't shit happening on these other networks. I think the most impressive thing Cardano has going for it is this thing called Midnight. and they had this thing called the meme coin little, what you want to call it, a meme coin basic. It was a calf run, not even a bull run. It was a calf run. People are like, oh my god, they're endorsing a meme coin. Cool, it's a snake, snack, whatever it is. It's stupid. It's just a fucking stupid JPEG with a name attached to it with no utility. Great, awesome. Oh, now we're getting into it. Now we're YouTubing, guys. You got me in here talking shit. This is what it took. It took almost 2 hours being here before you really open up. Hopefully this live will save too. I think it should. Yeah, guys, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, make sure you share. Obviously, I don't have a problem with making content and stuff and chatting. As long as the conversations are like, they're obviously like more on point, but even if it's like steering away and you're trying to ask me stuff that is more personal, I'll try to answer it in the most in the best way I can. I'll say that within reason. I don't want to completely dox myself because there's some fucking crazy people out here, and I don't know like why they're not worried about stuff like that. But bro, literally, people were getting subpoenas during the SEC trial against Hex and Pulse Chain. Like, that's crazy. I'm not trying to get no fucking subpoena. It's crazy work. Since I'm new to YouTube streaming and stuff, I wonder if like swearing is just going to go against me. I hope not. I really hope not. But if it does, GG's. But I don't really think I swear that much. But who knows? My luck. They're like, oh, this is why you can't post anymore. You said this. Oh, I told the truth? Oh, my bad. Let's see. Well, I think this is a good time to cut things off. Been going for an hour and 41 minutes. Not bad. I didn't even think I was going to be here an hour. Cool. Again, make sure you like, subscribe, share, comment. It helps. If you like my content, cool. That's going to help me get the word out, and more people are going to enjoy this content. So, very much appreciated. Thank you for the questions. Thank you for the interesting conversations. Try to do this more, but yeah, I'm pretty tired. All right. You guys have a good one, man. Take it easy.